Hey there, Python trainer Reuven Lerner here. And today I want to talk to you about one of the most annoying messages that people get when they're working with Pandas. And that is the setting with copy warning. And in this video, I want to show you why you get it, what it means, and how to avoid it. So let's start off with import pandas as PD. And I'm going to create a simple data frame. I'm going to say df equals PD data frame. I'm going to create it just based on 10, 20, 30, and 40, 50, 60. So I've got 2 rows and 3 columns. I'm going to then say the index is list of AB, and the columns are going to be the list of XYZ. So far, so good. What do we have here in terms of D types? Well, if I say df.dtypes, I see that everything is an int64, as we would expect. That's the default unless we specify otherwise, or we have some other kinds of data types here. And so how can I retrieve row B? Well, remember that in a data frame, it's the columns that are really important. Each column is a series. And so when I retrieve a column, let's start off with that, df of y column, and I get back A and B, and I get back a series, exactly what I would have expected. But if I say df lock of B, right, retrieve a row, I also get a series, but this series is artificial. The series doesn't really exist as a series in and of itself. It was constructed on the fly to give me a series so that Pandas knows how it can give me a bunch of values back. Because if you have one value, that's not a problem. If you have multiple values, then Pandas gives you either a series or a data frame, depending on if it's one-dimensional or two-dimensional. So great, I got this back here. So how can I retrieve column Y in row B? And this is where things start to get a little sticky. If I say df lock of B, well, that's a series, right? And many people will then say, oh, I'll just say then Y. Because after all, you can attach square brackets to a series and get things back based on that index. And it actually works. I get back 50. Just to remind you, B, Y, that's 50. All right, let's try something a little more sort of courageous. How can I set the value of row B, column Y, to be 99? Well, here, again, my instincts, and I'm just going to say here, don't do this, more on this later, right? This is the sort of the source of our problem, but I want to work up to that first. So I can just say equals 99 and assign to our, row and column. And here's the thing. I check and it actually works. Row B, column Y is now 99. So many people start working with Pandas in this way, and things work, and they work great. But then something changes. I'm going to redefine my data frame ever so slightly differently. I'm now going to say 20.5. And so if we look at our data frame now, it's exactly as it was before, 10, 20.5, 30, 40, 50, 60. But do you see a difference? Do you see that the D types are different? If I say df.dtypes, what do I have? I have an int, I have a float, I have an int. Why is the Y column now a float? Well, the Y column is now a float because one of the elements in the Y column, this 20.5, is a float. And that, of course, forces the entire column to be a float. Well, what happens if I now say df.lock of B? What do I get? Well, once again, I'm going to get a series because whenever you retrieve a row, you get a series. And now look what has happened. All of these values in this series are now floats, and the D type of this series is a float. Why did that happen? Because in order to give me back row D, I needed to get everything in a series. And if it's in a series, it's got to have one D type. And if it's a D type, well, it's got to be a float. Otherwise, not everything will work together. So what if I now say df lock of B of Y equals 99? Kablam. I get setting with copy warning. And people are super confused by this. And why are they confused? Number one, because setting with copy warning, a value is trying to be set on a copy of a slice from a data frame. Oh yeah, that's super clear, right? No, it's not. But don't worry. See the caveats in the documentation. If we open up the documentation to here, you know what it's going to do? It's going to confuse you even more. That's my experience. Because what it's doing here is giving you the theory about what's going on behind the scenes, which is great if you want to go deep into the theory. But most people are just wondering, why the am I getting this warning? Right? Why can't I just assign? I just assigned before, and it worked great. I'm assigning now, and by the way, not only did I get the warning, but we look here and it did not actually set things. So what's happening? What's happening is, once again, when I say df.lock of b, it is creating a new series on the fly that has the same values as the row b, but it has to create a new series because the x column and the z column are both integers. The y column is a float. And so in creating this new series, it needs to create a d type of float 64. So when I then say, show me y from df lock b, it's like, okay, fine, I'll give that to you. It's retrieving y from that new series. And when I try to assign to it, I'm actually, here we can see we get the warning again. It's saying, listen, you think you're assigning back to df the original data frame, but you're not. You're actually assigning to this new temporary anonymous series. And you can assign to it all you want. It's not going to affect what's back there on the original data frame. So whenever you get this warning, this means it might work. And by the way, it used to work sometimes. Now it definitely doesn't work at all from my experience. It means, listen, you're doing this the wrong way. Well, how should I be doing this? And the answer is, whenever you see double square brackets, and then square brackets right next to each other, it's almost certainly a problem because you're inviting Pandas to create this temporary data frame in the back. So how do I suggest doing it? I say df lock, not b, close the square brackets and open new ones, but rather comma. We can pass a tuple without parentheses typically to df.lock and specify the rows we want and the columns we want. So look at that. It now goes directly to row B, column Y, and we retrieve it. And we are not going through two separate, distinct retrievals. We're not first creating a new series and then retrieving from that. Rather, we're going directly into the data frame, row B, column Y. And my column specifier, my row specifier can be as complex or as simple as I want, right? We can use, well, anyway, I'm not going to go into that right here. It also means that if I say df lock of B, comma Y equals 99, silence. No warning. And guess what? It was set. Moreover, it was set to be a float, replacing the previous float that was there. So, bottom line, if you encounter the setting with copy warning, you almost certainly are doing the sort of double square bracket issue. Look for it, replace it with a comma. You might need to do some other adjustments, but that's the basic idea, because you only want to use one set of square brackets when you're retrieving from a data frame, and especially when you're assigning to it. I hope this helps to clarify things. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. You can reach out to me via email if you want as well. Don't forget, I have a free weekly newsletter called Better Developers about Python and software engineering. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with many more videos about Python, Pandas, and other fun stuff. See you here soon.